Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is the 1945 Cleveland Buckeyes, Negro League World Series champions. The Buckeyes were playing in the Negro American League. Home games were played at League Park on the east side of Cleveland and at Cleveland Municipal Stadium downtown. The Buckeyes finished in first place with a record was 45-12, winning percentage of .789. The second place team was the Birmingham Black Barons, who were 29-23, 13.5 games out of first. The third place team, the Kansas City Monarchs, 33-28. Fourth place, the Chicago American Giants, 38-43. Fifth place, the Cincinnati Indianapolis Clowns, 23-39. And sixth and last place, the Memphis Red Sox, 18-41, winning percentage of .305, 28 games out of first. So this was a glory year in Cleveland. The Cleveland Buckeyes were champions. The 1945 East-West All-Star Game, Josh Gibson, the star catcher for the Washington Homestead Grays, was suspended. He was really having trouble. He was suspended for misconduct and did not play in that game. Satchel Paige also did not play. He boycotted the game. So both those two star players were fading. The new star in the Negro Leagues was rookie Jackie Robinson, playing for the Kansas City Monarchs. Major League Baseball scouts were scouting in the Negro Leagues. In September, Branch Rickey, general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, signed Jackie Robinson and paid the Kansas City Monarchs nothing, although it was a secret at the time, was revealed later. Stephanie M. Liscio, who wrote a fine book about Negro League baseball in Cleveland, wrote this quote, Wilbur Hayes and Ernest Wright assembled a talented group of black ball players that would shock the nation in 1945. The 1945 Cleveland Buckeyes were the perfect Cinderella story. Their World Series victory that season was scripted like a storybook Hollywood ending. This season was a great moment in the history of Negro League baseball in Cleveland. In 1945, the Buckeyes had their spring training in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and played exhibition games in Texas and New Orleans. Again, the season was divided into two halves. The Buckeyes won the first half title and the second half title. World War II ended in 1945. VE Day, victory in Europe, was May 8, 1945, after Nazi Germany surrendered. And VJ Day, victory over Japan, was August 14, 1945, after Imperial Japan surrendered. So the Second World War was over. Now, back to Jackie Robinson. Robinson grew up in California and did not experience segregation and the racism from the American South, and he was impatient with discrimination. Now, as he joined the Kansas City Monarchs, they had a bus, and there was one of the bus stops. They would fill the bus with gasoline, 100 gallons, so a major purchase. But they were not allowed to use the bathroom. So at this one incident, Robinson was going to the bathroom, and the owner said, "Hey, you can't go to the bathroom." And Robinson, "Okay, fellas, take the thing out of the gas tank. Stop pumping gas. We'll buy gas somewhere else." So there was a confrontation, and the owner said, "Okay, you can use the bathroom," because he needed that sales. So Jackie Robinson really had a strong spirit. It was like fighting discrimination. In 1945, there was a new MLB commissioner, Happy Chandler, and he said this quote, "If a black man can make it on Okinawa and Guadalcanal, hell, he can make it in baseball." In other words, Chandler was in favor of African-American players joining MLB. On September 1, there was Wilbur Hayes Day at League Park, a thank you to the general manager for his efforts in putting together this tremendous team. He received a gift of a new Chevrolet automobile. Again, the Buckeyes were Negro American League second half champions as well. The home opener at League Park was on May 27th, and the Buckeyes swept the Memphis Red Sox in a doubleheader. Okay, the player manager for the Buckeyes in 1945 was Quincy Troop, and he was the starting catcher. And very unfortunately, the statistics for the 45 Buckeyes are very incomplete. Troop batted 184 according to the stats available with 7 hits. He scored 7 runs, had a home run, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, 7 walks in 13 games. They called him Big Train and Baby Quincy and also El Roro. During his career, Troop was a catcher, outfielder, second baseman, pitcher, and manager. He played for the St. Louis Stars, Detroit Wolves, Homestead Grays, Kansas City Monarchs, Chicago American Giants, the Bismarck North Dakota Cubs, Indianapolis ABCs. In Mexico, for Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey. The Cleveland Buckeyes, New York Cubans. In the minor leagues in Canada for Drummond. And for the Cleveland Indians in MLB from 1930 to 1952. Troop was a smart receiver and a superior handler of pitchers. He was a switch hitter, had power from both sides of the plate. He walked a lot, had a heavy bat, and was a good curveball hitter. Not much speed on the bases. He played in 5 East-West All-Star games. Troop was the youngest of 10 children, and as a young man he was also a Golden Gloves boxer. He went to Lincoln College in Missouri, played for 5 years in Mexico, where he polished his managerial skills. In Mexico, he hit .307, .337, .306, .364, and .301. In the Second World War, he had difficulty with the draft board and contacted the Mexican League president, Jorge Pascual. An arrangement was made so that 80,000 Mexican workers came to the U.S. to work in defense plants. That allowed Quincy Troop and Theolux Smith to play baseball in Mexico. Troop won the World Series title in 1945 with the Cleveland Buckeyes. He hit .400 in the World Series as the Buckeyes swept the defending champions, Washington Homestead Grays. He also won a Negro American League title in 1947 with Cleveland. In 1952, Troop played Major League Baseball for the Cleveland Indians. He got in 6 games, batted 10 times, had 1 hit for an average of 100. He also played for Indianapolis in the minor leagues. He played baseball year-round. The winners he'd play in Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Venezuela. 1947-48, playing for Caguas in Puerto Rico, he won a title as a manager there. For his career in the Negro Leagues, he hit .311. After he retired, he was a scout for the St. Louis Cardinals for 10 years. Troop was born in 1912 in Dublin, Georgia, and died in 1993 in Creve Coeur, Missouri, at age 80. His managerial record was 165 and 138 and 8 ties for a winning percentage of .545. His career stats in the Negro Leagues, he hit .280 with 119 hits, 87 runs scored, 20 doubles, 9 triples, 5 home runs, 60 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, 61 walks in 136 games. Again, in 1952, playing for the Cleveland Indians, he was one of the oldest rookies in MLB history, age 39. He caught black relief pitcher Toothpick Sam Jones. They became the first black battery in the American League. Stephanie M. Licio wrote, quote, "The Troop signing represented a huge upgrade for the Buckeyes." Quincy Troop. Archie Ware was back at first base. Ware batted .279 with 17 hits. He scored 8 runs, had a double, a triple, 11 RBIs, 3 walks in 15 games. And Ware was with Cleveland from 1943 to 1948. Archie Ware. Johnny Cowan was back at second base. Cowan batted .259 with 15 hits. Scored 5 runs, 5 RBIs, a walk in 15 games. Cowan played for the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942 and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1944 to 1947. Johnny Cowan. Parnell Woods played third base. Woods batted .220 with 13 hits. He scored 10 runs, had 3 doubles, 7 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 2 walks in 15 games. Woods played for the Cleveland Bears from 1939 to 1940, the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942, and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1943 to 1948, and he had been the manager of the team previously. Parnell Woods. Avelino Cañizares was the new shortstop. Cañizares batted .365 with 23 hits. He scored 13 runs, 6 doubles, a home run, 8 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 7 walks in 15 games. Cañizares' playing career was primarily in Mexico, where he played for Cienfuegos, Torreon, San Luis, Veracruz, Mexicali, and Saltillo. Also played for the Cleveland Buckeyes and in the minor leagues in Canada for Sherbrooke and Keokuk between 1944 and 1952. He was from Cuba. He was recruited by Quincy Troop in 1945 and came to Cleveland. They called him Glue. He was the glue in the Buckeyes infield. 1945 was his only year in the Negro Leagues. Cañizares was compared to Jackie Robinson and R.T. Wilson, the other two outstanding shortstops in the Negro Leagues. Cañizares had exceptional speed. He was a good base stealer. He lacked power. In Cuba, he played for Almendares and Alacranes. Cañizares was born in 1919 in Havana, Cuba, and died in 1993 in Mexico City, Mexico, at age 74. He had 13 years in pro baseball, during his career he hit .304 with 485 hits, 81 doubles, 16 triples, 12 home runs, 94 RBIs, 42 stolen bases, 131 walks, and 436 professional games. Cañizares could not speak English. He was a very exciting player. Avelino Cañizares. Buddy Armour was back in left field. Armour batted .267 with 12 hits. He scored 5 runs, 2 triples, 3 RBIs, a walk in 12 games. And Armour was with Cleveland from 1944 to 1946. During the season, he missed 2 weeks to have a tumor removed from his neck. Buddy Armour. Sam the Jet Jethro was back in center field, the star player for the Buckeyes. Jethro batted .339 with 20 hits. He scored 11 runs, 5 doubles, 4 triples, 14 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 9 walks in 16 games. Jethro played for the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942 and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1943 to 1948. Bob Dolgan, Cleveland sports writer, interviewed Jethro in 1995 at his bar in Erie, Pennsylvania, when Jethro was 72. And Jethro said this, quote, "We played in League Park and the stadium. We would draw 7,000 or 8,000 fans. I never liked the stadium. It was too cold, even in July. But it was a great thrill beating the Homestead Grays." Jethro and other stats had him hitting .393 to lead the Negro American League. Sam Jethro. Willie Grace played right field. Grace batted .304 with 14 hits. He scored 4 runs, 7 RBIs, 2 walks in 12 games. Grace played for the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942 and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1943 to 1948 and in 1950. Willie Grace. Now the bench players included Lloyd Davenport, who played some right field. Davenport batted .262 with 11 hits. He scored 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, 3 walks in 10 games. Davenport played for the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942 and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1944 to 1945. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His pro baseball career continued until 1951. Lloyd Davenport. Earl Ashby played some left field, and he was also a catcher. Ashby batted, no relation to Alan Ashby, a tribe catcher in the 1970s. Ashby batted .240 with 6 hits. He scored 2 runs, had a double, 3 RBIs, 3 walks in 8 games. Ashby played for the Cleveland Buckeyes, Homestead Grays, Birmingham Black Barons, Newark Eagles in the minors in Canada from 1945 to 1950. He was a free swinger. He was a rookie in 1945 in the Negro Leagues at age 24. He was a backup player for the Buckeyes. For the Homestead Grays, he was one of the players they tried to use to replace Josh Gibson without much success. Reportedly, he had an erratic arm and lacked defensive skills, and his foot speed was unimpressive. He had just 1 year with the Buckeyes. Ashby was born in 1921 in Havana, Cuba. For his career, he batted .194 with 19 hits. He scored 8 runs, 6 doubles, a triple, 14 RBIs, a stolen base, 13 walks in 38 games. Earl Ashby. Jesse Williams was a spare catcher. Williams batted .182 with 2 hits and 11 at-bats. He scored a run, had an RBI, a walk in 4 games. And Williams was with Cleveland from 1944 to 1947. Jesse Williams. Billy Horn played some second base. Horn batted .125 with 1 hit and 8 at-bats. He scored 3 runs, had an RBI, a stolen base in 2 games. Horn was with the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942 and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1943 to 1946. Billy Horn. Jerry Benjamin played some center field. Benjamin batted .333 with 1 hit and 3 at-bats. He had a double, an RBI, a walk in 1 game. During his career, he was a center fielder and a manager. He played for the Memphis Red Sox, Detroit Stars, Birmingham Black Barons, Homestead Grays, Newark Eagles, Toledo Crawfords, Cleveland Buckeyes, and New York Cubans between 1932 and 1948. He was a center fielder for the Homestead Grays during their dynasty from 1937 to 1945, when they won 9 straight pennants. Benjamin was a speedy base runner and a good fielder and a steady hitter. His first 2 years in the Negro Leagues were with the Grays when he hit .320 and .344. 1943, he hit .392 and played in the East-West All-Star Game 3 times. During an exhibition game in Buffalo, he had a broken ankle where he tripped over a guy wire holding portable lights in place. Benjamin was born in 1909 in Montgomery, Alabama, and died in 1974 in Detroit, Michigan at age 65. For his career, he batted .291 with 791 hits, 556 runs scored, 97 doubles, 34 triples, 24 home runs, 315 RBIs, 108 stolen bases, 264 walks, 674 games. What a tremendous career for Jerry Benjamin. The tremendous star Sam Bankhead played 1 game for Cleveland. And by the World Series time, he was with the Washington Homestead Grays. Bankhead played some second base. He batted .250 with 1 hit and 4 at-bats in 1 game. During his career, he was a shortstop, center fielder, second baseman, left fielder, right fielder, third baseman, and pitcher. Bankhead played for the Birmingham Black Barons, Nashville Elite Giants, Louisville Black Caps, Kansas City Monarchs, Pittsburgh Crawfords, in Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, the Memphis Red Sox, Toledo Crawfords, Homestead Grays, and in Mexico for Monterrey, in the minors in Canada for Farnham, and the Cleveland Buckeyes between 1929 and 1951. Bankhead was a hustling all-around ball player, an outstanding fielder with wide range, good hands, exceptional throwing arm, good speed on the bases, a good clutch hitter with moderate power. He was in the East-West All-Star Game 7 times with playing 5 different positions and hit .346 in All-Star games. In 1952, the Pittsburgh Courier had a poll and selected Bankhead on the first team as a utility among all-time Negro League All-Star players. Bankhead was an integral part of the great Pittsburgh Crawford teams of the mid-1930s and for the Homestead Grays in the late 1930s and 1940s. His lifetime average was .318. He won a title in 1937 with Ciudad Trujillo in the Dominican Republic. In 1938, in Cuba, he led the league with a .366 average. 1944 World Series, he hit .350. As a boy, Bankhead worked in the coal mines near Birmingham, Alabama. With the Pittsburgh Crawfords, he was teammates with 5 Hall of Famers. 1935, he hit .354, and in 1936, .324. In 1941, in Mexico, he led the league with 32 stolen bases. He played winter baseball in Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and Panama. His brothers, Dan, Fred, Joe, and Garnett, were also Negro League players. Bankhead was a close friend of Josh Gibson, and after Gibson's death, he became a surrogate father for Josh Gibson Jr. and signed Josh Gibson Jr. to play for the Grays. In Farnham, Canada, he was the first black man to manage white players. 1949 to 1950, he worked in the off-season for the refuse department for the city of Pittsburgh with Josh Gibson Jr. Bankhead was a model character. Some believe Bankhead was the model for the character Troy Maxson in the Broadway play Fences. He worked as a hotel porter at the William Penn Hotel in Pittsburgh. However, Bankhead was a hard drinker. He died of a gunshot wound. He was with a friend, and they were drinking and had a drunken fight and got killed by his friend. Very tragic. He was born in 1910 in Sulligent, Alabama, and died in 1976 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at age 65. For his career, he batted .285 with 682 hits, 412 runs, 92 doubles, 28 triples, 15 home runs, 318 RBIs, 96 stolen bases, 241 walks in 629 games. He had a tremendous 14-year career. Sam Bankhead. Now, a player named Brees, no first name indicated or known, was a pinch hitter. He got in one game and did not have a hit and batted once. And his baseball career was just with the Cleveland Buckeyes in 1945. A player named Brees. Now, the pitching staff, the ace pitcher was Eugene Bremer, who was 6-1 with an ERA of 2.07. 8 games, all starts, 6 complete games, a shutout, 61 innings pitched, 23 strikeouts. Bremer could hit. He batted .304 with 7 hits. He scored 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs, and 2 walks. Bremer played for the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942 and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1943 to 1948. Eugene Bremer. George Jefferson was 3-2 with an ERA of 4.43. 8 games, 6 starts, 4 complete games, a save, 42 2/3 innings pitched, and 13 strikeouts. Jefferson batted .182 with 4 hits. He scored 3 runs, had a triple, an RBI in 9 games. And Jefferson played for Cleveland from 1944 to 1948. George Jefferson. John Brown was 1-1 with an ERA of 1.06. 2 games, both starts, 2 complete games, a 17 innings pitched, and 7 strikeouts. Brown batted .167 with 1 hit and 6 at-bats. He scored a run in 2 games. Brown was with Cleveland from 1944 to 1945 and in 1948. John Brown. Satchel Davis was 1-0 with an ERA of 0.00. 1 game, 1 start, which was a complete game, and a shutout, 9 innings pitched, and 6 strikeouts. Davis batted .333 with 1 hit and 3 at-bats. He had an RBI and 1 walk. Davis was with Cleveland from 1943 to 1945 and in 1947. Satchel Davis. Willie Jefferson was 1-0 with an ERA of 2.03. 3 games, 13 1/3 innings pitched, and 7 strikeouts. Jefferson batted .222 with 2 hits and 9 at-bats. He scored a run, had an RBI, a walk in 4 games. Jefferson played for the Cincinnati Cleveland Buckeyes in 1942 and the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1943 to 1946. The brother of George Jefferson, Willie Jefferson. Rayford Finch had no decisions and an ERA of 4.50. 1 game, 2 innings pitched, and he did not bat. Finch played for the Cleveland Buckeyes, Louisville Buckeyes, in the minor leagues for Elmwood in the Mondock League, and Winnipeg and Danville in the Mississippi-Ohio Valley League from 1945 to 1953. He was 10-11 with Elmwood in 1951 in the minors. Rayford Finch. Lovell Hardin was 0-1 with an ERA of 4.50. 1 game, 2 innings pitched. He batted once, did not have a hit in 2 games. Hardin played for the Cleveland Buckeyes from 1943 to 1945. He was born in 1917 in Laurel, Mississippi, and died in 1996 in Erie, Pennsylvania at age 78. Lovell Hardin. Player named Provence, no first name indicated, was a pinch hitter. He batted .1,000, had 1 hit and 1 at-bat in 1 game, playing for the Cleveland Buckeyes in 1945. Player named Provence. After the regular season, the Negro League World Series was played, and the Cleveland Buckeyes, Negro American League champions, defeated the Washington Homestead Grays 4-0. The first game was at Cleveland Municipal Stadium, and the Buckeyes won that game 2-1. The second game was at League Park in Cleveland, and the Buckeyes won that game 4-2. The third game was they tried to play in Pittsburgh, but it was rained out, and so Game 3 was played at Griffith Stadium in Washington D.C., and the Buckeyes won that game 4-0. And Game 4 was at Shibe Park in Philadelphia, and the Buckeyes won that game 5-0 to get the sweep. They were trying to have World Series. The Negro League World Series was often played in neutral parks to get more fan support. The games were played between September 13th and September 20th. Wendell Smith, sports writer, called the Cleveland Buckeyes the Battling Bucks and baseball's Cinderella team. Again, Game 1 of the World Series was at the stadium. The Buckeyes had a 2-0 lead in the 9th inning. The Grays had the bases loaded with 1 out. And Sam Bankhead, who played for Cleveland in that 1 game, hit into a ground ball double play to end the game. What an exciting finish. Historian Mark Grabowski wrote, quote, "For the Grays, all life seemed to drain away." Wendell Smith wrote about the Buckeyes, and he wrote, quote, "The scent of a world championship was tickling in their nostrils. As they head for the Smoky City with 2 victories under their belts," this is after Game 2, "the inspired, confident Buckeyes are sizzling hot. And as they put it, it's going to take more than a bunch of squirts like the Homestead Grays to put 'em out." Game 1, Willie Jefferson was the pitcher, and Johnny Cowan and Willie Grace had RBIs. In Game 2 at League Park, the team was down 2-0 in the 7th, and Willie Grace had a home run. Buddy Armour had a double and scored on a hit and an error. And the pitcher was Eugene Bremer for Cleveland. In the bottom of the 9th, the game was tied 2-2, and Quincy Troop had a double, went to third base on a passed ball. Then there were intentional walks to Buddy Armour and Johnny Cowan, bringing the pitcher, Eugene Bremer, to the plate, who had a fly ball to deep right field for the game-winning RBI. The players carried Bremer off the field. Game 3, George Jefferson threw a shutout in Washington, D.C., and the Buckeyes they won that game 4-0 to give them a 3-0 advantage in the series. The Game 4 pitcher was Frank Carswell for Cleveland, and he threw a 5-0 shutout. Parnell Woods, Johnny Cowan, and Sam Jethro had RBIs in the game that clinched the championship. When the team came back to Cleveland, they celebrated at the Majestic Hotel in Cleveland. Stephanie M. Liscio wrote, quote, "Umpire Harry Walker even said the Buckeyes reminded him of powerful New York Yankee teams from the last 2 decades. Walker complimented the individual Buckeye players and said they were the nicest men he ever umpired, a team of gentlemen." The Cleveland City Council passed a resolution congratulating the team. Quincy Troop said that winning the championship had been a lifelong dream. Quincy Troop's strategy as manager was for the team to master the fundamentals. Quote, "I knew I didn't have power hitters, with the exception of myself, so I had to utilize the speed, hit and run, bunt, and other batting techniques to the greatest possible advantage." Sports writer Bob Williams wrote this about Quincy Troop: "His men will attest to his forcefulness, intelligence, and sincerity." Now, the Grays were this long dynasty, and early in the series they heckled the Buckeyes. And Quincy Troop said, quote, "The more the Grays heckled, the more the Buckeyes hustled." So the 1945 Buckeyes were a special team and kind of a forgotten championship team in Cleveland that needs to be remembered. Washington Homestead Grays had tremendous players, including Cool Papa Bell, Josh Gibson, and Buck Leonard. Now in the Negro Leagues for 1945, the top hitter was Roy Campanella for the Baltimore Elite Giants, who Campanella later became a famous player for the Brooklyn Dodgers. The top pitcher in 1945 in the Negro Leagues was Roy Wellmaker for the Washington Homestead Grays. So that's the story of the 1945 Cleveland Buckeyes, Negro League World Series champions. Wow, a team to be proud of. And just imagine, and to remember, to acknowledge them, that Cleveland has 4 championships. The 1895 in baseball, the 1895 Cleveland Spiders, the 1920 and 1948 Cleveland Indians, and the 1945 Cleveland Buckeyes. God bless the guys who played for the Cleveland Buckeyes in 1945, and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the Civil War the Spanish-American War veterans, First World War veterans, and Second World War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue electricity, Severance Hall stalwarts, Cleveland Museum of Art enthusiasts, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum rebels, Christmas Story House happy people, Museum of Contemporary Art maniacs, Cleveland Botanical Garden goers, Old Arcade admirers, Playhouse Square seers, Settlers Landing Park purists, Western Reserve Historical Society wonders, First Energy Stadium friends, Progressive Field pals, Quicken Loans Arena enthusiasts, Cuyahoga Valley National Park pioneers, and Great Lakes Science Center supporters. Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, Gladiators, and Fusion rule. Cleveland, city of champions. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is a plum. Opening day is getting close. April 1, 2019. Go Tribe, this is our year. You might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray at peterjray.com. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.